Happy Monday and welcome to All Things Considered, the podcast that gives you all sports all year from all angles. I'm your host, Al Scott. Returning to ATC is my co-host and lovely producer, Aaron Atwell. Thank you for coming back, Aaron.
Of course, man. Thank you. I missed the last couple episodes, but I'm glad to be back.
Of course. Later on this episode, we will have former Fresno State football players Cameron Lamanuzzi and Cam Bracha on to talk about faith, family, and football. And you'll definitely want to stay tuned to hear who wins the Nerf gun fights between Cam Bracha and Nick Benedetto's kids. So that's going to be fun. Before we get into spring football season, the latest with Fresno State basketball, shout out to the Fresno State softball team. Entering Saturday, they needed a win to clinch their spot in the postseason on the final day of the year, on senior day, no less. They go into the seventh and final inning of the game. They're down 2-0 and 2 outs, no less. Seniors Natalie Elias rips a triple down the right field line. Emma Martinez pulls a triple off the left field wall, almost tied the game with a home run. Alyssa Rebelletto ties the game with a single. You got back-to-back-to-back seniors coming through. They scored 2 runs. They had a fourth hit. They couldn't break away with the win. But in the next inning, Riley Bikini, starting catcher for the Bulldogs, walk-off 2-run home run, sends the Bulldogs home happy, clinch their spot in the 5th seed in the Mountain West tournament. That will begin this Wednesday. It is single elimination for the first round. They'll play New Mexico. And if they win, they'll go into the winner's bracket for the Final Four, as you saw with the Diamond Dogs last season, that format. So, yeah, good luck to the ladies in Nevada this next week. That'll begin on Wednesday again. So, yeah, shout out to them. Fresno State baseball snaps a 6-game losing streak yesterday. Jordan Haver fired 4 1/3 innings out of the pen. Brady Hewitt and Mikey Pickett delivered a pair of RBIs as well. So good thing for the Dogs after a very rough Saturday in which they lost 17-0, turned it around yesterday. And hopefully they can finish the year strong. They are practically eliminated from the playoffs this year, but the rest of the season, it's not useless. These are still innings. They are still at bats. They're building for next year and beyond. It's a very young team, but there's a lot of talent, whether it's Marcus Nolan, Brady Hewitt, Mikey Pickett, Michael Boyd. Brandon Thomas on the pitching side, he's had a very strong year out of the bullpen. They've got talent up and down that roster. It's just a matter of seeing it all come together. Yeah. So, Fresno State football. Aaron,
Yes, let's
what
get
are you
into
most
it.
excited for?
I mean, we just wrapped up spring camp. You got to cover that for us here at ATC. So I just had a few questions. I think a lot of the fan base has a few questions just because I think a lot of people have question marks about, the offensive line, kind of a rebuild offensive line. And then who's going to replace our 2 primary edge rushers that we lost in Corey Foreman and Finn Claypool?
Finn Claypool, the fullback? Yeah. Finn Claypool trying out as a fullback with the Seahawks. That's exciting. But replacing him, that'll be another story. Definitely Jazon Jacks returns to that defensive line. Sione Nua, Martin Owosu up the middle. So you've got some experience there. That's probably the most experienced area on this team. But in terms of replacing the pass rush, that remains to be a big question. They brought in some transfers, Sacramento State. Dylan Hampson, I think, might have a chance to make a big impact. Solomon Baker, only a true freshman, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, true freshman from Nebraska, one of several players from that area of the country on the Bulldogs now. Throughout camp, he came across as a name that made a difference. Now, whether he makes a difference on day one of the fall season remains to be seen, but he's a guy that I expect to make an impact at some point this fall on Saturdays. And, that's something that the Bulldogs will need. They're going to need guys, not just the juniors and seniors, to step up. As you saw last year, there were games where Bulldogs, were throwing in underclassmen. Titus Kajavi started last season as, a guy on the scout team. He ended the year starting more than half the games. So it's the sort of mentality, and Coach Entz said this the first day of spring camp. Every single guy here, they know that they're gonna play. That's part of the culture here at Fresno State is we're gonna get guys used to playing football. They're not gonna go home saying that they're not getting an opportunity. If you come to Fresno State, you're going to get an opportunity. So you got to be ready. And I think that's part of the good thing about spring ball is it gives you a chance to see what's happening. On the offensive side of the ball, two running backs, the guys that are going to be your starters next year, Rayshawn Luke and Bryson Donaldson were a little bit banged up during spring camp. Not the worst thing because it gives guys like Julius Gillick um, and Tariq Thomas a chance to show what they've got, show that they can make a play. And that's the beauty of the spring football season is it gives you time for development and it gives you time to show your skills, work on the fundamentals. You talk about the offensive line. I think that is an area of one of the strongest areas on that football team. I think at the tackle position of for sure you're very strong. Bringing back Braden Walton at the left tackle, Roland Fullwood at right tackle. The rest of the line remains to be seen. Obviously, I think you got Fanua um, at the guard position, but um, yeah, Edward Fanua. I believe he played right guard last year.
Mhm.
Um, Gino Quinones returns after some pretty bad injuries. I was a USC transfer, but you've got some experience there. They brought in a couple JUCO transfers from San Diego, and so there's definitely some talent on that line. And I'm excited to see what they do in that area. They've got a lot of big guys. Um, and that's something that we haven't necessarily seen from the Fresno State offensive line, throughout history. This is one of the biggest offensive lines that they'll have. I'm watching one of the practices, Kyson Van Vute, uh, working with Braden Walton, and they're going at each other one on one, and it's like 6'7", 6'8". See, you got the twin towers there. Uh, so yeah, there's a lot of excitement on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and then I'd be remiss to, not ask you about that quarterback competition that we got going on. Quarterback room is pretty full and not a lot of experience in there, but what can you tell us about the quarterback situation going forward?
You mentioned not a lot of experience. This is probably the most inexperienced locker room that they've had in a very long time. And yet I'd also say it's probably the most excited I've been for a quarterback room since Jay Kaner was on campus in 2022. For starters, it's very athletic. All five guys can run with the football. Christian Martin, um, Jaden Mandala is back after injury last year. Jonathan Kraft, Jacob Chambers, and Deegan Rose. The latter two, of course, are early enrollee freshmen. Um, with Rose coming just around the corner from Clovis High. There's a lot of talent in that locker room. Granted, not a lot of experience. Mandel didn't even play last year. Kraft, was watching from the sidelines. Martin was, the backup at Maryland. He comes in. So, not a lot of experience on that locker room, but a lot of athleticism. One thing that Entz made clear is that they're going to run some design quarterback uh, runs, that'll open up things on the outside. It also gives you an opportunity to throw the ball deep, which they didn't really have an opportunity to do that last year. Carson Conklin didn't have a play over 20 yards last year. Warner had a few, but that really wasn't his game. They moved balls over the middle, they moved on the outside. They didn't really throw the ball deep. You saw that a little bit with Mikey Keene, but they haven't really had that, in a few years. And I think that's one thing that will help the wide receiver room get more involved is stretching the field, and it'll open up more running lanes throughout the field.
Yeah, I think, you hit on a good topic there is in terms of, fans got really worried last year that they believed that we focused too much on the run, right? And they kind of got discouraged by a little down on Josh Davis last year. And don't think that's fair to Josh Davis. I think he was kind of limited due to quarterback play last year, in my opinion, and also the wide receiver room not being as talented as we're going to see this year. So I think we're going to see a much more still run first offense for sure, but I think we'll see some more explosive plays in the last year.
If there's one position group on this team that I wanna see the most improvement from last year, it's the wide receiver room. They have the most to prove, but I will say it, they've got a lot of talent. Um, like, they didn't lose anyone except for senior Jordan Brown, um, but outside of that, they're bringing back the same position group, the same talent, and I think being able to use the deep ball a little bit more, as I mentioned earlier, it's gonna open up more opportunities over the field. It's gonna be up to that wide receiver group to step up, see what they're made of. They've got a lot of young talent. I'll tell you what, Xavier Owens is a guy to keep an eye on in the next few years. Hopefully, the Bulldogs can keep him, give him some opportunities, show some growth there. Him and Harold Duval have a bright future. If they can keep them at Valley Children's Stadium, you know, there will be some strong wide receiver one battles in a few years. But as far as 2026 is concerned, Josiah Freeman staying at Fresno State is huge for the Bulldogs. It shows that you can keep big name talent. They only lost
Mhm.
one starter on either side of the ball. Tight end Richie Anderson, good for him at going to Texas A&M. But for Fresno State, that shows one. It says a lot about the coaching staff that you're able to retain talent, and two, have guys like believe in your system, even after only 1 year with this coaching staff. They believe. Not only did you only lose one starter, you only lost one coach, Zach Crabtree to Purdue, and then you promote Bijan Hosseini, Coach Haas, in house from assistant O line to tight ends. Brian Ferentz goes over to the offensive line. I think continuity is an underrated aspect of a college sports team.
I believe, Coach Entz, he talks the talk, but he also walks the walk, and he keeps emphasizing what this program is gonna be, and that's a high school developmental program. And I think we really saw that this offseason with the retention rate that you just mentioned, with only losing one starter to the transfer portal and then everybody else being graduate seniors. So I think Coach Entz is kind of the coach that the Valley loves to see because I think people are kind of slow to adapting to this transfer portal era of college football where they don't want to see this roster turnover year in, year out, especially on the football side of things.
Of course. And I'll be honest, I was a little bit hesitant when Hens was hired. I really love Skipper. He was a great dude and wish him all the best and with his new job. Um, but yeah, I Ents has been a home run so far and pretty good recruiting class, if you ask me, one of the highest rated recruiting classes in program history. And I think that you're seeing the results right now of what happens when you have a coach that's built on the trenches. And they're gonna be built on toughness. I mean, as cliche as it sounds, they're gonna have offensive linemen, they're gonna have strong running backs, and I think adding in that quarterback athleticism is gonna give them an opportunity to do some different things. Results matter, and so as far as last year was concerned, they left a couple of games on the table, possibly. But they still won 9 games,
Mm.
and that's not a thing to just look past. 9 games for a first year uh, FBS head coach is nothing to, snort at. I mean, it's a big deal.
Back to spring ball. Let's flip it back onto the other side, Nick Benedetto's defensive side, which I believe will be the strength of the team again as we return, I think, 7 starters on the defense end, but
6 or 7.
6 or 7, yeah. So we got strong defensive line play, a lot of depth, a lot of rotation pieces there. Linebackers room looks very solid with Kajabi and Thunderbird and Logan Stute and all those guys there. Safety, I think we filled our with Wilson and Tierney coming back. But I think we have a big question at cornerbacks. Who is going to replace our starting corners from last season?
Well, I think one name to keep an eye on is Keontre Harris. Made a lot of waves during camp. I think that he's a guy that, you know, are you expecting him day one to be as good as Alzillian Hamilton and Jakari Embry? I think that's a little bit of high expectations, but I think he's got the talent and the speed to make things happen. Jaden Creole is primarily a special teams guy. I think he's a guy that has a good chance to be a starter next year, or at least see the field a lot. Um, yeah, they've got a lot of talent. Loyal Muzon, Preston Okafor, the Nebraska transfer. So there's a few guys that, will see the field at some point. Croy Stewart, the UCLA transfer, high school teammates with Simeon Harris. I do think that there are some question marks. I mean, the secondary, especially being the strength of the team last year. If you lose, 3, 4 starters from that group, how are you going to replace that? Um, that's remains to be seen. But Nick Benedetto's defenses have succeeded everywhere he's gone. They've got the talent room. It's just about getting on the field and playing.
I mean, I can't believe we're at the end of spring ball already, and that first USC game is gonna be here in no time.
Here in no time, Pac-12 around the corner.
Pac-12, here we come. June was it June 1st or July 1st? July 1st.
July 1st.
Yeah,
Switching over to basketball.
let's switch it over to basketball for a little bit.
So for the men's side, they brought in pretty much an entirely new team.
Mhm.
You got the three incoming freshmen: Anthony Granger, Yashui Quesabeta, Rylan Parsley. They got 6 transfers: Brady Hanij, Ross Canalino, KJ Perry, Dragos Lungu, Quentin Rhymes, and the return of Brian Amunique. So all of those guys plus Nathan Zulumi from last year who didn't play. DJ Stickman is back, but he's hurt and will likely miss most, if not all, of next season. With really bad injury. So hopefully he gets back as well. But a lot of new faces. Third, fourth year in a row, it feels like where the Red Wave is experiencing an entirely new team. What do you think about that, Aaron?
Yeah, I think that's the new norm here in college athletics, or at least in the basketball side of things, where we're going to see this roster turnover year over year until things start to settle down, at least on the NCAA side. Maybe some guidelines getting put in place, some guardrails or something. But for a mid-major like us, I think this is going to be the new norm. But we have a lot of transfers coming in and a lot of inexperience, not a lot of proven guys. Uh, the Dragos kid from UT Martin has been injured a lot the last 3 years, three season-ending injuries in a row. The Rhymes from Nebraska was a highly rated recruit, 4-star recruit out of high school, but didn't play last year. And then you got Ross, former walk-on at Wisconsin, takes a scholarship at Lipscomb University, I believe.
Lipscomb.
Lipscomb University, plays there for 2 years. Knockdown shooter, shot over 40% last year. And then KJ Perry
Brady Hanij.
and Brady
Oh yeah,
Hanise,
KJ
yeah.
Perry,
KJ Perry,
former
former number one junior college player of the year, or ranked junior college player of the year, redshirt last year. So not a lot of experience here at this level. And then Brady Hanise, the only big man on the roster right now. So
Yeah, there's a lot of unknowns.
mhm.
I think replacing last year, there's obviously, they were hoping to, you know, bring Gory back. That didn't happen. As you mentioned, the transfer portal, not a lot of money. Um, and I think that's just something that Fresno State, as long as they're, I guess, underperforming, that they're going to lose out to other schools that can match or pay more money. They're not going to have the draw of, the bigger name schools. And that's not just a Fresno State issue. We talked about this when Jackson Moore was on. San Diego State lost pretty much their entire roster from last season. So, it's not just Fresno State, but if you're a Fresno State basketball fan, it's gonna get frustrating after a while just seeing new team after new team. And, as a coach, you're trying to get these guys all acclimated. It's hard. When you're having to build an entirely new team every single season, it's hard. It's hard to generate wins. It's hard to generate success when, these guys are all still trying to figure out where they fit. It's not like a team where you're just changing out 1 or 2 guys a year.
Yeah. And then with this change, you bring in a lot of inexperience. I believe Ross is going to be the only player with a lot of actual game experience at this level. Um, Brady has played a little bit, and so has is it Dragos? Drago?
Dragos.
Yeah, Dragos has played, but again, season-ending injuries in a row. So very limited experience. So it's going to be a lot of ups and downs this season, I believe. But I do think that the talent level has been raised, but that's to be expected as we jump into the new Pac-12, where the talent is just going to be raised. The talent bar is going to be raised conference wide. So um,
Of all those guys, I'm most excited about Brian. He's someone that, 2 years ago, him and Elijah Price were like the two guys that I was like, they've got to do what they can to bring these guys back. And unfortunately, they couldn't. But, 2 years later, Brian Amunique finds himself back at Fresno State. Didn't really see the court a whole lot with Wichita State. That's going to change, with the Bulldogs, assuming he stays healthy. And I think he brings some knockdown shooting and some athleticism to a team that desperately needed it last season,
yeah,
especially at the wing position.
I think you touched on something huge there is the lack of shooting on last year's team, and I think Ross and Brian are a good start, but I don't know if those two are enough for what Coach Wahlberg and his system really wants to do. But I think there's a couple more roster spots to fill out. They definitely need some more big men, as there's only one in Brady currently on the roster to play that four position in Coach Wahlberg's offense, as the five is that combo guard position since he likes to play three guards. But we will it'll be remain to be seen how they fill out the rest of this roster.
Yeah. Something to keep an eye out on in the coming weeks.
Yep. Did you want to touch on anything else this episode, Al, or should we jump into this interview with the Cams?
Let's jump it into Cam and Cam.
All right, things out.
Thanks, Aaron. Welcome back to All Things Considered. I'm your host, Al Scott. With me today are two very special guests, Cameron Lamanuzzi and Cameron Bracha. Lamanuzzi, you are a team chaplain at Fresno State, as well as the head of Fresno State FCA. And Bracha, safety for the Bulldogs the last 3 seasons. We'll get into your what's going on with you guys in a little bit, but first I'll start with Lamanuzzi. You played at Fresno City, as did Bracha. You played just before COVID. Can you talk a little bit about the transition and what got you to Fresno City and then on to Fresno State?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for having me on here too. I'm fired up to just have a good conversation. This is it's crazy being so many years out now. It's been like 8 years since I started my career at Fresno City, and kind of what got me there was senior year. I was supposed to have a really good year on paper, and I got really injured, both ankles, shoulder, groin. Ended up just kind of going down the wrong path after that. Didn't play football out of high school. I had too big of an ego to play at junior college. I felt like I was too good, which is so funny looking back, because junior college football is a lot better than a lot of people realize. And so I started just partying, going down the wrong path. And March of 2018, I ended up going to jail for a DUI and a gun possession. And um, God completely was working on my heart during that time. That's when I started to really change. That's when God started to impact my life. And one of the things I knew leaving uh, that life, I was like, I need to go to Fresno City and play football. Like, it was just like clear. So I hit up my head coach at Bullard, Coach Arax, who then hit up Coach C. And Coach C was like, we have 2 linebackers. We just need a body. So I head over there, start playing there, and ended up earning the starting job. And man, those years at Fresno City were so impactful on who I became. Like, football wasn't just about success, or it wasn't about achieving goals, but it was about helping shape me and form me for who I am, because my world got bigger after I got in trouble. I realized, like, what I do in these years of my life matter, and there's people counting on me and who have invested into me. And more than anything, like, God has a plan for my life. And I saw football as a way, as a tool that God would use to change me. And like, Junior college football really humbled me, really made me realize like what mattered in life, what didn't. Coach Scheidt played a huge part in that because he ran the FCA at Fresno City and he was my D coordinator and linebacker coach. So he showed me real great leadership, servanthood leadership. He showed me how to lead through love. And then there was other things because of my DUI. I had to take the bus almost my whole career there. I get rides from my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and my dad and my mom would sometimes give me rides. But for the most part, I had to take the facts, and that was a slow, humbling process that really helped me. Helped me to realize, just sit and think a lot about my situation. And I was successful at Fresno City. I got first team all conference both years. I got injured in the end of my sophomore year. And I missed 3 games, but I was like front running to get defensive player of the year. So again, I was kind of in the same position where I was like, I know I'm going to get offers. I know I'm going to get recruited. And then injuries came and kind of delayed that. But I didn't respond the way I did before. I just believed God was in control and the door that would open was meant to open. And so I had a couple D2 offers, but I wasn't willing to move for those offers. And Coach Tedford had just stepped down for the first time. Coach DeBoer took the job. And my dad's friend happened to be hosting all the Fresno State coaches at his house, the new ones, DeBoer's staff, because he was a real estate agent and they needed to buy homes. So he hosted them and we watched the national championship. And that's when I met Coach Inge, Coach JD, and and he told my dad to tell me not to show him my tape, like not to be like try to get an opportunity. But we were both like, man, we're gonna do it anyways. So I literally go there. I literally put stuff in my shoes to look taller. Like this is how desperate I was. And I showed him my tape. And I'm like, watch this. And Coach JD, Coach Inge watched my tape and they invited me to come and to their office the next week. Like, come and meet with us. And they're like, we have a spot for another linebacker or walk on, but you got to get into classes. And this is like February of 2020. Like, semester's already started. But I went to Fresno State as a student before I went to Fresno City, and I would take a class every other semester to keep my enrollment. And my dad, thank God for my dad was the one who told me to do that. He was like, if this all falls apart, if football doesn't work out, you need to make sure you keep your enrollment so that way you could just go back in and you don't have to reapply and start over. And so I signed up for like random classes. Like I took like African studies. I took yoga. I took like, I think I took like an art class. Like ag business marketing, which I was an ag business major, but it wasn't like a class I needed, but I just had to get 12 units. I walk in there, I'm like, I got 12 units. They're like, awesome. Okay, come in Saturday. We'll have your locker. This is like Monday.
Wow.
I'm training, right? I'm trying to get in really good shape because I'm about to start winter workouts and jump right in with these guys at the D1 level. And they're going to be looking to cut me because I'm a walk-on, right? So I'm like trying to make sure I'm in tip-top shape. So I'm like squatting, I'm running hills. Well, they call me Tuesday night. They're like, hey, we actually want to see you move out there. So come to our tryout tomorrow morning. I'm like, bro, I squatted 400 pounds today. Like, I'm going to be shot in the morning. I ran hills. Like, I'm dead sore. But I didn't panic. I didn't tell them that. I'm just like, all right, I'll be there. Hang up. And I get out there like an hour early to roll out, warm up, and I'm thinking, oh, they're just gonna have me doing like linebacker drills. No, they had us running 40s, and they had us running short shuttles. They had us running an L drill, and they had position drills. I'm like, they did a mini combine for us. And by God's grace, me and JB were the only two that made the team and stayed on the team. And then right after, 2-3 weeks after, COVID happens. And so I made the team right before COVID, and it was just God's plan. So, and then being there, it was funny. Like when I first got there, they wouldn't call me my name. They'd call me walk on, not my teammates, but a couple of the coaches, walk on, get over here, walk on, get over here. It was a really humbling, sobering experience. Cause I had a huge pride issue. I just thought I was the best thing ever. And it really humbled me. So Yeah, good transition. A lot of things that happen in between. Seeing the standard of Division I football and like living up to that was a big transition as well. So yeah, that was a journey.
Bracha, you had a similar pathway. You started out at Buchanan, then you played at Fresno City as well. Then you also walked on at Fresno State. You guys
Yeah.
seem to have a lot of common, more than just your names. Can you talk a little bit about your journey to becoming a Ram and then a Bulldog?
Yeah, so I started over at Buchanan, the worthy name of BHS, as we like to say on that side of town. But I had a great experience at Buchanan with Coach Gio. He did a great job leading us. We won a lot of games there, man, and we're very successful. I got to play with some great players that were older than me, younger than me, my age. And But I got to see how things were supposed to be done on like a D1 level with Coach Gio. And his format was all based off what Coach Teddy had done, and his experiences with Coach Teddy. And so it was really awesome to be able to be in such a great program early. And so when I made the transition to Fresno City, me and say 10 teammates from my graduating class decide, let's see what this has to offer. We stepped into it, pretty blind, not knowing what to expect, but Coach Giordano had a similar path. And so we're like, all right, let's give it a shot. Who knows what's next, especially during COVID right now, and no one's really getting recruited. So, I went over to City, and the roster was just loaded with D1 bounce backs, guys in similar positions from high school, like me, and anybody just looking for the next opportunity because COVID was really tough on them. And so I stepped into a room with Division I bounce backs from Fresno State, Cal Poly, U of A, and the list goes on. And I just found myself like, how am I supposed to play here? I thought I was just going to walk in and be able to do it right away. And um, but that was a really good period for me because I got to learn a lot about the people around me. People who are coming from such different walks of life. I was able to be able to connect with and find similarities with, and that relationship building helped me a lot when I got to Fresno State and was asked to be a leader as time went on. And for a long time I just led by my actions. Um, and that's how it started off for me at Fresno State. And then I was able to walk into kind of a bigger role with using my voice and whatnot. But like Cam says, a lot of that stemmed from junior college for me, and that day in and day out of choosing to be there because no one made you show up for practice there. It wasn't like at Fresno State where if you're not at practice, like you're gonna know. But at Fresno City, like whatever, you might get a text. And so it was hard to show up every day. And my going into my sophomore year, I gained like 20 pounds during the off season, and so I was on a rigorous schedule of training and eating, and that was all outside of Fresno City. I had to do that on my own, which added another component to it. But I had a really successful junior college year. I was really lucky. 2 years, I was lucky to stay healthy. Um, but I didn't have much coming out of there. I was, a lot of teams thought I was undersized. Um, but I had one FCS offer, and then Fresno State was like, "Hey, man, Coach Teddy offered me a walk-on spot," and for some reason, I thought, let's do it. My parents were graduates, um, but I just had a confidence that I was going to be able to do it, and coming off my recruiting trip, and I was the only walk-on there, so they were looking at a lot of different guys, but I knew right in that moment, something sparked on me that I was going to get it done here. The Lord was going to honor me and help me out. And if I was just me, then things would be all right. And it ended up being that and so much more. So I was super blessed.
You played for three different coaches at Fresno State. This last year, your defensive coordinator, Nick Bettadeno, he would love to have his defense over for team dinners and whatnot. He also wanted me to ask you why you could never win a Nerf gun fight with his kids.
I remember it much different where my team was often winning and his wasn't. Um, but I'm sure he didn't want to tell you that. I'm not surprised. But it was oftentimes tough playing for a lot of different head coaches, because I'm such a relationship guy. And I'm so based on that with my teammates and my coaches. And so, you know, a new one every year was sometimes really hard for me. But what was consistent was my first 2 years were I had the same teammates, I had the same position coaches, I had Coach Coyle, and so that was really stable in the first year. But I had a really tight relationship with Teddy, so it was hard to see him walk, but it was awesome to see a guy like Skip get his opportunity that he deserved. Honestly, in my mind, he worked hard for that, and he's a great leader, and I think he's going to do unbelievable things in the future. And then moving on to Coach Entz, it was from day one we met, I was like, listen, man, like, I'm here for you. I'm here to lead this team, and we got to get things rolling because we don't have much time. And that was in January, and all I wanted to do was be able to be a connection between him and some of the players, who are maybe, unsure of him walking in. But Coach Entz, from day one, did a great job, controlling the room, directing the locker room, and getting us all in the right um, place mentally in what we were trying to achieve. And I think you saw that in, our season. We had like 9 wins and a bowl win. And that doesn't happen in a first year coach very often. And we definitely left some meat on the bone as we know, but I think that's just a testament to him. And Coach Benedetto was unbelievable. Guys had a top 10 defense, for the past few years. And so it was awesome to be a part of a new staff, learn some new people, and play with some new players. And, although there was a lot of change, I love the relationships I built. And I'm fortunate that I got to, follow so many great men.
And then Lamanuzzi, you are still at Fresno State, not as a player, but sort of in a leadership role. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and your role with FCA?
Yeah. Yeah. So FCA stands for Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and that's who the ministry I serve with. And our job is to engage, equip, and empower our athletes and our coaches to grow spiritually, to grow in relationship with Jesus, and to grow into the church, actually. And so part of that role is me being a chaplain with football, but there's other aspects of that role. Like I lead a Bible study leaders meeting where these different student leaders from different sports, softball, volleyball, baseball, equestrian, football, cheer and dance, like they all come together and we in track and field and we go through the Bible study they're going to do with their teammates, and then they go out and do that throughout the week. And so there's different things we do to help just provide this space for them to grow spiritually while they're in college. There's a crazy statistic. 79% of kids who grow up in the faith in high school, middle school, when they get to college, they leave. 79%, they leave the faith. And so I see it as, my job to bring that number down and then also introduce Christ to those who don't know him, the beauty and the love of Christ. And so, yeah, there's many different things we do. We do a coach's Bible study. I do one-on-ones with players, and I meet with them and coaches. And then we also do chapel before the games each season before every game. So,
Do you see a revival going on at the Fresno State campus right now?
yeah. I think what's happening is God is a God of multiplication. He's not a God of addition. He'll take 2 and multiply it to 4, who multiplies it to 16, who multiplies it to whatever 16 times 16 is, I'm not a math guy, but maybe you could help me out, Bracha. At the end of the day, like God is multiplying what's happened, because when I got to Fresno State, there was only 5 people coming to the FCA on Monday nights. And it was the 4 leaders and 1 extra person, and now we're seeing 30 to 60 every Monday night, but that's just on Monday nights. The amount of student athletes I meet who are going to church on a regular basis, the amount of student athletes I meet who are serving at the Boys and Girls, like Marhadi Exepra, serving at the Boys and Girls Club, helping out with the children's ministry. Today, Titus, Kajavi, and Tommy going to Lincoln Elementary School on the west side and talking to them about their journey in college football and being able to share the gospel with them. So, there's just multiplication happening, which I think shows a revival. And ultimately, there's a revival in sports right now. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you didn't talk about Jesus in sports. It was taboo. That's private. You keep it to yourself. But now people are excited, and even fans, people that athletes and coaches influence, they're excited to hear athletes testify about their faith. And so there's something happening, and we get to be a part of something pretty special here just working with FCA. And I'm just happy to be like one little pawn on the chessboard. So, yeah.
Bracha, you are part of Purpose Field, which is able to connect athletes and their purpose. Can you talk a little bit about that and what that journey has looked like for you?
Yeah, so Elon and his program were substantial, in my development as a high school athlete, college athlete, and even to this day, going on to whatever's next in my professional career. And, Elon does a great job athletically, but, you know, for everything else, he's a great mentor. And I think that's where Purpose Field just kind of is set apart from so many different, trainers across the valley is, Elon has such a big interest, in the people around him, in his athletes. And, you know, those sessions, even to this day, were all about, what do I got going on? What are the barriers? I've got to break down in my head because I was that one guy who was, not always sure on the field, maybe hesitating, maybe that imposter syndrome like I had as a walk on, or just doubts before the game. And Elon was so substantial in aligning my faith with what I had going on the field, and how can I break down those walls to be who I really should be. And so he's just such a fulfilling guy to be around all the time, always reassuring the people around him. But outside of trainings, we did a lot of homeless outreaches, a lot of, just work in the Bible, even this past week, like we did just like a grocery drop off at one of the churches right by Fresno State. And so those were just really humbling servant moments that we got with him. And, I remember one time he took us on a trip up to a Raider game. And so he was just, like similar to a mentor or a big brother I had, who was able to really help me connect what was going up top mentally to my faith, to performance on the field, and then all pointing it back to the Lord. And so, I was fortunate. I wouldn't be who I am without him. Guys like him, guys like Cam, my dad, my parents, all these substantial people, my youth pastors from church. Like, it's been awesome that I've been able to kind of carry this thing and be able to do it in remembrance of them. But it's taken a village, and the Lord has blessed me for sure. Crazy.
Yeah. You mentioned family. Lamanuzzi, you're going to be multiplying your family very
There we
soon.
go.
Yeah.
You got an announcement for us?
Yeah. We're going to be having a baby girl coming June 7th or sooner or later. So it's crazy just seeing this big transition in life. Right now, the big thing is just preparation. After we get off this call, I'm picking out the paint colors for the nursery, gonna be building the crib Saturday, gonna be packing the hospital bag. So it's just really starting to sink in because it's really hard for you to grasp how big of a deal this is until she's in your arms, is what every dad tells me. It's not gonna be until she's in your arms, it's just gonna hit you like a train. And so I'm choosing right now to really reflect and meditate on like what this means to become a dad. So yeah, this is exciting.
Crazy.
No, you told me last Friday that you're looking forward to playing catch with your daughter. What are some of the other things that you're looking forward to as a dad?
Yeah. I'm looking forward to watching her just learn things. I've had the privilege to like help my like my friends who have kids that I call my nieces and nephews, um, even family. Like, I've had the privilege to watch their kids grow up, and you just watch them like figure out their hands are their own hands, and they're just amazed by it. Or like, you know, uh, I think I think AP was telling me, his son AJ was just like jumping in the puddles, And it's like, those are those little things that just make you realize like life is so much more simple than we want to make it. We think we need so much to be happy. And when you start to see life through a kid's eyes, you really see that first you don't need the next thing to be happy, but there's joy to be had right now. So I'm excited to see the life through my daughter's eyes. Um, I'm excited to love that bandwidth of love to just grow, like to see who I am in God's eyes, right? Because we always hear of the Father's love, but it's really hard to conceptualize the Father's love unless you are a parent. And so I'm excited just for that, my heart to grow and to hurt and the journey of it all. I'm excited to see my daughter learn who Jesus is. And like I'm excited to give her that opportunity to discover who God is and invite her to be a part of that. So yeah, there's so much I'm excited for. My parents are gonna be grandparents for the first time. I'm excited to see who they are as grandparents. My brother and sister don't have a niece or nephew, so like seeing their niece, it's just there's so I could go on. We could make the whole podcast about this if we wanted to, but this is the best time of my life right now. I'm excited to see my wife be a mother. I think I'm gonna fall in love with her all over again.
Yeah.
And I fall in love with her all the time. They're like, I think it's really gonna wreck me when I see just how amazing of a mother she already is. But especially once she has the responsibility of nursing and just caring for our daughter, Layla. Layla Grace is her name. So when Lauren is taking care of Layla, it's just gonna melt my heart. So excited for that.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You mentioned Coach AP. I saw a video that he posted, I think it was last week, of his son running one of the drills, and Coach Ent said, "We got to get that boy a whistle,
Yeah,
to add him onto the coaching staffs." Um,
that's good.
Bracha, your dad tells me you have an autograph from a very famous football player, um, Peyton Manning. Can you tell us a
Uh-huh.
little bit about that story?
Did he tell you to share this story? This is an unbelievable story, honestly. So
Yes.
so I'm not shocked, but so we were living in Indiana when I was a kid, and when Peyton was with them, and they had won a Super Bowl prior to us getting there, and they had then played the Saints when we were there, which I was devastated as a young kid, just for that to happen. But that's where I really first fell in love with football. And like, there's an old picture of me and me in a Peyton Manning shirt, and my brother's in a Reggie Wayne, and my sister's in like a Dallas Clark shirt, and all these cool like big time Colts. And so Peyton Manning was my favorite guy. That's where I fell in love with football. And so my dad would travel a lot when we were younger. And there was one time he was in the airport, and Peyton Manning is flying commercial. I don't know why, but he's got his sunglasses on and his hat and his head down, trying not to be seen. And my dad somehow spots him out and is like, "Hey, Peyton, is that you?" And he kind of like perks his head up and looks, and sure enough, it was. And he's like, "Hey, dude, like my son's a huge fan. Would you mind signing something for him, Brian, something for him? His name's Cameron, whatever." And so, yeah, he signs me something, and he comes home the next day, like late at night. I feel like I remember it being for some reason, and he's like, "Dude, look what I got you." And he's like, "It's a signature from Peyton Manning." And I'm like, "Dad, no way. Like, how does Peyton Manning know you?" And my dad's like, "Yeah, son, that's something I'll just tell you one day." But it was awesome.
Yeah,
Good time.
I met your dad on Saturday at the spring game. He seemed like a good bunch. They were hanging out with the Mandel family, the
Yep.
Heinz family.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, lot of former Buchanan Bears in that group.
Yeah, the Buchanan
Um,
pipeline.
he also, yeah, the Buchanan to Fresno State pipeline. I was a Bronco, so
Yeah.
it's a little bit hard for me, but I still got a lot of appreciation for those Bears.
There you go.
Your dad also tells me that you had a secret to your football success, and it was more than your skill. He talks about how 5-hour energy is the key to the greatness that is Cameron Braca.
Yeah, I should have been the face of the franchise as like a 9-year-old. But, yeah, Pop Warner, like, we used to play so early on Saturdays, like, um 8 a.m., the young kids were out there, and so there was a lot of times where we were leaving the house super early, making this long drive up in Sacramento to somewhere, and he would just need something to wake me up. And it's funny you say that because me and my grandpa were talking about this, like, a few weeks ago about how, my dad wasn't even the only one doing that. Apparently, like, it was kind of this norm for the dads to slip the kids an energy drink, and, but it was so funny. And, I think, I really fell in love those first years of football, just being able to spend that time with my dad, you know? Um, I think everyone's dad is their hero, And, to have those early mornings, going to practice, getting yogurt after, or just seeing a thumbs up from him, man, is something I've really been reflecting on, and that guy's my hero. So anything he told me to do, I would do it. So it's really cool that, we have those memories. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's good.
Well, I'm gonna do some get to know you questions before we go. These questions apply to both of you. First question is favorite meal to get in the Valley. It could be a home cooked meal. It could be, something at Doghouse. Whatever you want. If you are gonna eat good tonight, what are you eating, Cam?
If I'm going to eat good tonight, I'm going to give you two options. Home cooked and outdoor. Home
Yeah.
cooked and eating out. Eating out. Tsukiji, all you can eat sushi
Come on.
every time.
Come on now.
$35, I'll eat my body weight in sushi. They hate to see me walk in there. They hate to see me. They're taking a loss when they see me coming. And I'm taking a gain. I'm getting on that scale 5 pounds heavier every time. The home cooked, I'm going my dad's tri-tip, my mom's mashed potatoes, maybe some artichokes, some grilled artichokes with the sauce. They make this aioli sauce, put on there. Man, that's the one right there. They'll also do like veggies. They'll either do like roasted veggies like zucchini, squash, etc. Or they'll go like asparagus, season it with some lime. They also throw some chimichurri. Gotta have that chimichurri. And then my mother-in-law's mac and cheese and yams as well. Her mac and cheese, her yams, chicken. The chicken is great. But yeah, you get me talking about food, bro. I can't make a decision. So
I consider myself a mac and cheese connoisseur, so you're getting me hungry right now.
I'll have to have her make you a dish, but it might ruin the rest of mac and cheeses for you because hers is number one.
I'm a little bit backwards, so I honestly homemade mac and cheese is not always my favorite, but like I will like rank like different like store-bought mac and cheeses. And so like for me like I will go to town on a box of like 3 boxes of Kraft mac and cheese. But yeah. Same question for you, Bracha. Your favorite go-to meal.
Yeah, I'd say home cooked for sure. Like Cam saying, a tri-tip. My dad throws a tri-tip on. Hard to beat. My mom's rice pilaf with, just some asparagus or Brussels sprouts, like such a staple, I had growing up probably once a week. And so I'm a sucker for that now being out of the house, It's like anytime I hear what they're cooking, like I'm over there in a heartbeat. But around town, like there's so many good restaurants. It's so hard to pick one. Um, but for me, my girlfriend, we love to go over to Saison. I mean, their nigiri sushi, like their crispy fried um sushi is just unbelievable to me. Like I am a sucker for sushi, and that it might be my favorite sushi plate in town. There's some really good places around, but that individual one, like me and my girlfriend will get that as an appetizer, and then sometimes we'll even get it as a meal. But it's bomb. Yeah.
Have you guys ever gotten sushi together?
No, but you just made plans for us right now.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
We've hung out before. We've had food together, but we've never had. You know where I just came from was Mediterranean Grill on U
So
Street
good.
downtown,
So good. So good.
which is the best Mediterranean food in town.
Venetia Garden's good too.
I'm not much of a yeah. Venetia Gardens.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
that
Yeah,
is a
it's
good option.
it's good.
The next get to know you question: your all-time favorite athlete, and why?
You want to go first, bro?
Yeah, I'll go first. Mine's pretty unique. Hopefully I don't get emotional with this one too, but um mine would be my sister. You know, she's a stud soccer player over at Cal Poly, you know, and has accomplished so much in her career. But you know, the way she's handled adversity, she's had 2 ACL surgeries, going to have a third one like here soon. But there's just something I really admire about who she is, and you know, the woman she's become. And it's been really cool to have a sibling kind of go through a similar season of life. And when I went down with my collarbone, you know, she had a lot for me to learn from. And I'm just so fortunate that I've been able to be healthy, but I will always stand on the pillar that she was the best athlete in the family. But, you know, she is definitely, you know, as I've grown with time, become my favorite athlete and just someone who I've loved to watch and love to cheer for. Um, and she flies around on the soccer field more than anyone like I've ever seen. It's so awesome to watch her play. And so, yeah, that would be my answer, and, I'm just fortunate that I've got her as a sister, and I've been able to share this with her.
Yeah, she played at Fresno State this last year. I think it was the first game of the season that they played the Bulldogs. And I remember I was announcing that soccer game that night, and I remember when she came in, and I thought, "Wait, is that another Bracha on the field?" And surely enough, when she got on the field, you could tell with her not only her athleticism but her leadership and her ferocity on the field. And I was like, "Yep, that's another Bracha for you."
So
Um,
good.
yeah. Cam, your turn.
Yeah. I gotta go with Kobe, man. I just gotta go with Kobe. Kobe Bryant. Like, I know it's cliche, but the guy, I mean, I was a diehard Lakers fan, always had been. Some of my earliest memories is playing like NBA Live 03,
Oh,
04, and playing with Kobe and Shaq. And I just loved what I loved about Kobe is Kobe was obviously super talented. Like you don't go to the NBA if you don't have talent. But he's not he exceeded his talent ceiling because of how hard he worked and his mentality. And I just felt like, you know, if I could be 2% of that, like I'll probably be able to go further than I should go. And so I really loved watching Kobe Bryant growing up. I can I consider it like a privilege to have watched him live. Like and seen just that level of excellence. And he's a girl dad, so
come on.
you know, come on.
I had on Quincy Pondexter a few weeks ago, and I had asked him who, like, the athlete in his career that made him go awe, and he said he had mentioned Kobe, and he had said that when he had to guard Kobe in his playing career, he asked his coaches for the game plan, and he goes, "Don't make him angry." Like that's the game plan, because he didn't have any weaknesses.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that that's one of the cool things about sports is that people from all walks and backgrounds, they can share those similar perspectives. They can have different experiences, whether as a player or as a fan,
Yeah.
as a teammate, as an opponent. You all can witness greatness from your own personal experience. And so I think that's pretty cool.
I,
Um,
I
Next
used to
question
have
for you.
I
Oh,
gotta
sorry.
tip on that. I used to have a picture of a signed picture from Quincy Pondexter, him playing against Kobe back in the day. So it's pretty funny. He used to hold like these
Oh, that's
Pondexter
crazy.
camps. Yeah. So funny deal. Funny deal.
Good times. Uh, Next question for you. Is there something on your bucket list that you'd like to accomplish before you're dead? Just something that is really at the top of something you really want to do?
Loaded question.
Dang.
I don't know if
So
I'm
for
fine.
me, one of my bucket list items is I want to visit all 30 Major League Baseball stadiums before I'm dead. I'm currently at 13 of 30.
There you go.
That's impressive. You're young to be that far in already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're very young to be like there. You're basically halfway there.
Yeah. I'm not crossing off any new ones anytime soon. I'm going to the Giants Padres series with my buddy next week. That's not a new
Nice.
stadium though. But yeah.
Yeah, you
So
know we're gonna win it soon.
what's on your bucket list, Cam?
I got one. I want to go. Well, I want to see every continent.
Yeah,
Oh,
same.
here's a couple for you. I want to see every continent. I want to go to Israel, to the Holy Land, go to Palestine, go to like the whole region and just see like church history and stuff. And the third thing, it'll come back to me. I got excited about the continent one. Oh, yes. Yes, I'm running a marathon in November, and that is a bucket list thing I'm doing this year. Is I'm going to run a marathon. And eventually I want to run an ultra if my body holds up through the marathon training. So we'll see how
The
my
Two
body
Cities
holds up.
Marathon?
Yeah, November 1st, 6 a.m.,
Nice.
7 a.m., something like that.
I will see you there.
There we go.
I don't run it. I help work the event. I announced the 10K portion, which if everyone runs through the 10K portion at some point, because it's like one of the checkpoints.
Mm-hmm.
But that's I've gotten to do that the last 2 years, and that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. To tie it all together, I know a guy who ran a marathon in Antarctica. So to all the flat earthers who want to say Antarctica is not a real place, I know a guy who's been there. He showed me pictures.
Are you referring to Christian?
No, his name's Mike S.
Mike S.
Yeah,
There's
Mike S. He's the cross country coach at Justin Garza. He's in my run
Wow.
club.
Well, congratulations to him. I was reading about a guy recently who did 7 marathons on 7 different continents in 7 days. He grew up here in the valley, so I thought that was a pretty fascinating story.
That is cool.
Yeah, and then Bracha, same question to you. What's on your bucket list?
I think visiting every continent would be awesome. I would love to see kind of outside the US and outside Mexico. I've been to Mexico, but that's about it. And then I think, this would be tough, but being a scratch golfer would be pretty sweet. I got a little ways to go, but that would be pretty rad.
Have you gotten any better at bowling? I know that was something that you were working on a couple summers ago.
Well, I was good enough to win that day, so and beat all the safety. So I bowled pretty well that day, but I haven't really since. Me and Sim, were able to kind of beat everyone up. So I think I did all right.
It just jotted my memory, speaking of you winning things. You have the all-time record at Valley Children's Stadium for the fastest run. Did you get like a plaque or a shirt or something for that?
No, I didn't get anything for it, but a cool memory and my name on top of a really, memorable list. And I hope, when people see that too, they just see, it represents the team we had this past year and how special it really was. And, the things we were able to accomplish were pretty awesome. And so that was pretty cool, but just some cool bragging rights. And so we'll see if anyone can go get it this year. It's there to be broken. So I'm interested to see.
Last question before we go, and this question goes to both of you. Who are you most looking forward to watching on the Fresno State football field this season?
Oh, I can't. How do I dumb it down to one? There's so many.
I know.
There's so many guys I admire. I don't think I'm going to be able to give you one. Oh.
Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be the one. It can just be an example of a guy.
Well, I'm going to give you.
Gino
Yeah, go.
Quinones, I think is how you pronounce his last name. Forgive me, Gino, when you watch this.
Can you tell me a little bit more about him? I haven't had a chance to meet him yet. I know he's
Here was my first
USC
interaction with
transfer.
Gino. Here was my first interaction with Gino. Gino left his phone because he's old, like me, and he left his phone in Josephine, like behind. And I didn't know it was his phone. But I saw on his screensaver his wife, and I assumed because he has a wife that's a coach. So I go and I don't take it in the locker room and be like, hey, whose phone is this? I take it upstairs to the coach's office and I go, hey, a coach left his phone here. And Alyssa goes, oh, that's Gino. And I'm like, oh, yeah, what does he coach? This is right when Coach Entz came in. It's right when he came in. So I'm like, oh, what does he coach? She goes, no, he's a player. I said, we got a player who's married? And she was like, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. So I'm like, that's cool. So I'm thinking maybe they've been married 6 months. No, they'd been married like 3 years. And I'm downstairs talking about how funny it is. I'm like, oh, I found this player's phone. I thought it was a coach because like he's got a wife and this guy's like grown. And then like Gino walks past and I think he's a coach because he looks older too. And he's like, that's my phone. And then that was like the first time I met him. And he was probably like, this guy is over here talking smack or whatever. But it was a funny little interaction I had with him. Gino is awesome. He's authentic. And he's got a huge heart for people. The guy won't throw out food. If we have SCA and there's like a plate left over, he's like, I'll go find someone to give it to. I'll go give it to somebody. Him and JB drove around on Thanksgiving handing out turkeys to people in the community. He's got a huge heart and he loves animals. Ask him if you ever get the chance to ask him about his dogs. He found one of his dogs. Someone threw his German Shepherd into a dumpster. And he went not through. It wasn't his when they threw him in there. He saw someone throw a dog in there, and then he went and rescued the dog, and now that's his dog. And so the guy he's a fantastic guy, just fantastic. And he has been through so much adversity. He's had like 2 or 3 knee injuries. He's coming back, and he feels healthy. He feels strong. And I am thrilled to watch him play. Thrilled. So. Yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah. Hard for me to kind of put it into one. Yeah, I just admire so many guys on the team that gosh, some of them are gonna text me and be like, dude, why didn't you choose me? And I'm just gonna have to say it, I didn't have a choice. But gosh. I'm gonna say two. But my two are definitely Ryan Wilson and Jaden Carrillo, man. The safety room from I also love so many other guys, but 2 former walk-ons who kind of did similar route to I did and have just shined in their role that they were given and have just earned the right to more. And both those guys were huge on us for special teams. And are going to be huge defensively. And so I'm excited to see those guys fly around. They've only gotten better during their time here. And Ryan really shined last year and Jaden shined. And I'm just excited to see what they continue to build upon. So, there's a plethora of other guys out there that I really admire. But we'll keep it to those two. So sorry to the boys.
Carrillo, I will say, has been very impressive this spring. From what I've been able to see, definitely looking forward to watching him this fall.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Well, thank you guys both for joining me today. And make sure you turn into All Things Considered next week. Every Friday, got another special episode coming. And thank you again to Cam and Cam for joining us this week.
Thanks, Al.
Grateful to be a part. Thanks for having me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one, guys.